realize that banning abortion doesn't lower the rates, right?
Actually, it does. Just like any crime, it does.
It just makes more illegal and unsafe abortions happen.
Well, every abortion's unsafe for the child.
And unsafe for the mother. Do you want two lives to die?
I don't want any lives to die.
I never get an abortion, but
that's good.
I respect other people's rights too.
Why?
Because it's not my decision.
To do this to a child?
I don't think they're children.
What do you think they are? Well, what sort of magic happens that makes them a child?
When they're able to survive on their own.
Well, but I mean, you could be in a situation later in life. Any of us could be where we're put on an oxygen tank. You unplug it and we die.
I have a DNR.
What's that?
I have a do not resuscitate order. If I'm ever in a situation where I'm not able to care for myself, I'm not able to breathe for myself, then I will not be resuscitated.
Well, what if other people don't want to die like that? They don't want they can't live off an oxygen tank, or if you take away their medicine, they're going to die.
They're not people yet at that point.
They are. From the moment of fertilization.
That's not how that works.
Well, when do you say life begins?
Life begins when they're a viable life, when they're able to be born and take care of themselves. Not even just take care of themselves, but they're able to survive on their own. At that point is when viability occurs.
So what do you base that on?
If you're able to be born and survive, if they're able to, even if it's with intense medical care, like like an incubator, then that's technically a viable life. There is a line where doctors say this is viable, and that's also where abortion becomes illegalized, which is how it should be. Over 90% of abortions are within the first 10 weeks, at which point it's just a pill that encourages a period to happen, which is just a period at that point.
So should we murder people because they can't survive outside the womb or outside a certain place, or they can't survive?
They're not people, that's the difference.
Well,
they're fetuses.
Well, fetus means little child.
No.
Yeah, it does.
No.
Fetus means little child.
But they're not children yet.
They are.
They're not.
Well, why do you say they're not a child? What is it?
They're not a viable life yet.
So what is it if it's not a child? What is it?
A bundle of cells.
That just magically turns into a child or a human being?
It doesn't magically turn into a child. The way the development works, which I've taken several classes on it. I am in a course of study that deals only with children.
Okay.
The way that development works, there is a point where it is a viable life, and abortions don't happen at that point. Pretty much the only time anyone gets an abortion past the first trimester is if there's a serious risk to the mother's life.
That's actually not true.
It is true.
There's about 5 places in the country where you can murder your baby up to the moment of birth.
That's not true.
It is. I've looked it up.
I'm sorry, but it's
well, you don't have to believe it's true, but I'm telling you it is true because I could tell you the name of the people doing it.
Feel free.
Warren Hearn, Leroy Carhart, Martin Haskell, George Tiller used to do it in Wichita, and Curtis Boyd.
But are those legal abortions?
Yeah.
You can't get an abortion unless it's going to kill the mother.
There's several states where you can have an abortion up to 9 months.
And they advertise it.
9 months.
They advertise it too.
There's people that go travel to these states that want to have late-term abortions.
Hey, mothers used to travel to Wichita from all over the world to have their babies murdered by George Tiller. He'd murder them up to the moment of birth. I know because I used to live in Wichita when he was doing that. So, I mean, it does happen.
Yeah, and I live in North Carolina where the transgender bathroom laws exist, but that doesn't mean that every time you walk into a bathroom, someone's going to get beat up.
Not every time.
On Sparkman Drive, they're murdering 21-and-a-half-week-old babies. That's a fully formed baby with only like the eyelashes not there. They can survive at 21-and-a-half weeks, and they're murdering 30 to 40 babies a week.
Oh, yeah. That's not true.
It is true because I'm there every week.
At that point.
It is true because I'm there every week.
Abortions are happening about 95%, up to about 10, maybe 11 weeks. And at that point, you don't even have a surgical abortion. It's not a surgical procedure. It is essentially just something that kicks your body into gear and says, okay, here's a whole bunch of estrogen and progesterone, and you're going to have a period. That's when 95% of abortions happen. And if you pass that,
Hold on.
it's a moment of desperation. children probably should not be born into a household that doesn't love them, and to a mother who doesn't want them or cannot provide for them.
So they're better off dead if they're going to be poor.
I didn't say poor. I said someone who cannot provide for them.
I mean, I had a bad childhood. I was abused.
As was I.
Should I have been aborted?
I'm not saying should have been aborted. I'm saying that if a mother can't care for their child, then, and they know that they can't, then it's an adult decision to not put themselves in the position where they are going to be a mother, and that's their choice.
Their choice, but it's the wrong choice.
Would you prefer the children go into the foster care system?
It used to be a choice to own a black person in this country. It used to be legal.
It was legal in Nazi Germany to murder Jews.
Right? That was wrong.
That was wrong, but that's not exactly the same thing as
it is.
It is.
Bundle of
It
cells.
is.
And the reason this continues.
Like a bundle of cells?
The reason this continues in America is because we've learned nothing from history. With the chattel slavery, the Nazi Holocaust, the civil rights movement, we've learned nothing from any of these evils because we're doing it right now to our own children.
Can I ask?
You can ask.
What is it?
I'm Republican.
And you realize that even though they were called Democratic Republicans at the time, those were the people who believed that you should be able to own a person of color, or that you should be, this is a fascist party, but a lot of the same beliefs politically that believe you should be able to murder Jewish people. And so it's not like anyone's really in the moral right. However, I want to protect people's rights.
What about the preborn?
They're
people, and you know they are, and you know they are.
They're not citizens yet of any country.
But they're people, and you know it.
No.
You do.
No.
It's common sense. When a woman becomes pregnant, she becomes pregnant with a child.
It's common sense, and why don't most of America see it that way?
Well, we don't see it that way in a sense because we love our sin and we hate God. And in order to, I'm not saying that this applies to either of you. I don't know, but a lot of people in this country, they want to have sex outside of marriage, and they don't want to own up to their responsibilities. So they want to justify murdering their baby by saying, "Well, it's not a human being. It's just like."
Abortions are done to married women.
What's that?
Most abortions happen to married women.
Married and single women, or married women who are married, but regardless, they murder the babies to cover up for their sin, and they justify it saying it's not a human being. But there are also mothers that say, "I know it's a human being. I know it's a baby, but I don't want a child," and they murder the baby.
Usually, I don't want a child. It's that they can't care for one, and it's probably not best for a child to be in that sort of situation. Where if my mother didn't want me, I would prefer she had aborted me.
To have your arms and legs ripped off and your skull crushed?
Sure, why not?
Well, would you want that done to you right now?
Sure, why not?
You'd have no problem with someone coming here and taking an axe to your arms and your legs?
I was in a psych ward 2 weeks ago that tried to kill myself. Sure, why not?
And I dealt with suicide too.
I'm going to step
I've gone
in
through suicide
right now because this is.
We both have dealt with suicide too. What's
Is
that?
this an argument or an agreement?
No, we're just talking.
Okay.
But I think the ultimate question is not anything of which has been discussed. I think the ultimate question is whether or not this is a life, and in this entire discussion I have not heard that addressed, other than through common sense. Now, it is my belief that it is a life, but I believe this form of communication is ineffective.
How so?
And so, because clearly you're not changing anyone's minds here.
How do you know?
And because I'm a student.
Okay.
And I have heard the conversations that have been started
Okay.
with the people in the CU. I have seen their body language as they walk past, and that is one of defensiveness, and that is one of someone receiving condemnation, and that is not effective.
Well, how do you know that though?
Because of what I just said. The people are going in and they're saying, well, I already knew that. I already knew that's what it was. They are fully aware. We're not uneducated.
She's not aware.
She is aware of what this is, but she has a different core belief about whether or not it's wrong to do that.
The abortionist that murders here on Sparkman
I
Drive,
just called them doctors.
his name is Willie
they're not
Parker.
doctors.
He's an assassin. His name's Willie Parker. You can Google his name, and in public debate, it's got tens of thousands of views. He said, yes, I am killing a human being. I know when a woman comes to me, what she is asking me to do is to kill a human being. He's just okay with it.
And that's Willie Parker.
That's Willie Parker, one a so-called doctor on Sparkman Drive.
And another, I already mentioned his name, Curtis Boyd. He has abortion clinics in Dallas, Texas, and Albuquerque, New Mexico, where he murders babies up to the 3rd trimester. On video, you can look this up on YouTube right now. He says, am I killing? Yes, I am. I know that. So abortionists have admitted that they're killing people. And they'll talk about the arms, legs, the head, the skull, the child that they're murdering.
I know what happens physically. You don't have to explain.
Can
I'm
I provide an alternate perspective here?
Feel free.
So, what do you propose would be the solution for just abortion to be legal?
You would abolish it. You treat it
So the thing is,
as a form of murder.
If we look past the surface level, the reason that abortion happens is bottom line because of poverty. Right? People have unprotected sex more often because of poverty, and they can't raise children because of poverty.
Actually, not necessarily, because I've been to these abortion clinics. They're not driving beat-up cars. They're driving nice cars.
We have people come in Lexus, BMWs.
And they don't look poor to me. The way they're dressed.
How does someone look for?
I'm sure there are outliers, but there are extremists that make every group look bad.
Well, we go regularly to the abortion mill, so we kind of know who's coming in.
I mean, all the other countless countries who have, better poverty and healthcare and everything don't have the same problem. But regardless, what I'm saying is this is a political problem, or
it's a human heart problem.
Human hearts can't make walls. It has to be political and legal.
No, this isn't a political issue. It's the Bible says you shall not murder. The law of God says you shall not murder. It's not political.
The Bible also said that if your kids are disobedient, you should take them to the shed and beat them with a hammer.
Where does it say that?
It said a woman should not talk over a man. 1 Timothy 2:12. But
It's not exactly what the First Timothy said.
You're talking
but
about a
in the
woman
Old
being an
Testament,
authority
that was-
over a man?
yes.
Right, I agree with that.
Okay, well, regardless.
But yeah,
what I'm saying
keep
is,
going.
the politicians who care about poverty and things of the sort are pro-life. So the politicians who, are pro-choice, sorry. The politicians who are pro-life do not care about the things that cause people to want to get abortions a lot of the time. So there's kind of a catch-22 there.
But just so you know, we're not pro-life, we're abolitionists. Just like the abolitionists of slavery, we're the abolitionists of
And the
abortion.
abolitionists of drinking, where that was.
So why is it that you want to abolish abortion because it's murder?
Yeah.
But that's not pro-life?
Well, I'm saying that pro-lifers have a different perspective. They want to regulate murder.
Gotcha.
We want to abolish it, and we're not part of the pro-life movement.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of the abolitionist
I got
movement, but just drawing a distinction there.
We're abolitionists, like this, but pro-life abolitionist is kind of
Alright, well,
different, like we
that's
believe in abolishing all abortion. And that women should be held.
But
criminally
getting people to think about this, talk about it, that even if they don't agree with us or hate our guts.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like when I was growing up, nobody talked about this. Nobody.
That's not true.
Neither.
I never heard it.
I
I never heard him talk about it ever that I can recall. And I didn't know about this till I was 22. Because nobody talked about it. My pastors didn't talk about it. Not one pastor said anything about it. And it was through Christian radio that I learned about this. And so I'm actually personally doing for y'all what I wish someone had done for me. This is a college, but at my high school, junior high, and at my college. The Christians never did that. And so people they're thinking through it. Doesn't mean they're going to change their mind. Maybe they will, but they're thinking through it, and they've seen these images. I wish I'd seen these images when I was a teenager. I never did. Because even as a teenager, I was not a Christian. I thought maybe like when I was in high school or middle school, if I saw these images, like, my goodness, what happened to that child? What kind of a monster would do this to a human being? And maybe even as a non-Christian, I'm like, I got to do something about this now. And because there are non-Christians, the gentleman over there, the tall gentleman, he used to be an atheist, and even he knew that this was wrong. So you don't have to be a Christian to know this is wrong. It's inherent that the law of God that's written on our heart. The sixth commandment says you shall not murder. Everybody on this campus, everybody in this world knows that. They just suppress the truth and unrighteousness, as the book of Romans talks about. Everybody knows this is wrong. Everybody knows this is a human being, even if they want to deny it. And our nation is drowning in sin. So much sin in this culture, so much sexual immorality. Pornography is everywhere. Sexual immorality, adultery is everywhere. So in order to justify our sin and have a somewhat of a clear conscience, well, I'm okay, we have to deny the humanity of the preborn. Just like they did in chattel slavery, they denied the humanity of black people, saying they're not full human beings and we can treat them like trash and enslave them, torture them, murder them. And
that was encouraged by the Bible.
No, it's not.
Yes.
Not the slavery we had. It's a different form of slavery in the Bible.
Indentured servitude is what the Bible really refers to as.
Indentured servitude isn't okay either.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, definitely times have changed and for the better in most regards, including indentured servitude and slavery.
But you realize that abortion is criminalized, or it'll just happen the way it did before Roe v. Wade, where women die, and they die horrible deaths of sepsis, where more people will die. If you believe that life is that important, it's not going to lower the rates of abortion. It's just going to raise the rates of unsafe abortion.
Well, it's all unsafe for the child.
Abortion is morally fantastic or anything.
Why?
As to why that is?
Because it's just my personal beliefs, but that doesn't make me able to say this is the way it should be for everybody.
Well, if abortion is, you don't think it's a good thing, why is it not a good thing?
It's not a great thing because it's not something I would choose to do, but I also don't choose to go to a Christian church every Sunday, but you're allowed to do that. It's not my decision.
So, I just want to clarify, I'm not with them, I'm just a student here, but I just want to ask you, because you said if abortion was made legal, it wouldn't reduce the use of abortion, or the actual abortion, it would just reduce safe abortions.
Yes.
Okay, so with that in mind, I'll ask you this. We have laws in place. Do you not believe that those are, effective at all when it comes to these things? If drugs were made, legal, all drugs across, the United States, more people would probably use drugs.
And more people would probably use them safely.
Well, there's the debate of what's safe and what's unsafe. Going back to him, it's not safe for the unborn.
If you're speaking about, for example, marijuana, you see where it's been decriminalized and legalized, that there are laws in place to make sure that you're not using unsafely. You're still not allowed to drive while high. You can't be high in public.
Yeah, but let's say that's gone. That's out the window. You're saying that it would just it wouldn't really affect it regardless because the laws are just
saying just the same amount of people are going to smoke weed. It's just there's going to be drug
I would say that more people would if everything was made legal because there's not the guilty conscience and the societal pressure to behave at a higher standard. If you got rid of all laws, then there's no standard anymore, and then people just act however they want. If there's no laws on the table, no societal structure to guide everything. Take Lord of the Flies, for example. When society was out of the way, it just went animalistic. That's not the basis of human nature. Just about.
I don't believe so.
That's why we had to have laws in place, because if we had no laws to govern our behavior, someone could come on this campus today and shoot us all to death, and there'd be no legal consequences.
Exactly.
It happened a lot more.
People aren't just going to do that.
They will. More.
No.
They will.
We're arguing that more, probably. I guess.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying everybody would, but you have these laws in place, where if the law wasn't in place, people would do it more because there's no legal repercussions.
There's the consequences on the mind. If I come up and punch you and I suffer, and I know about the consequences, I know I'm probably not going to do that. I don't want to. I just want to clarify.
I know.
Sorry.
Don't worry. I'm not going to be like, you tried to punch me. No.
But if there's no consequence and I have the ability to do that and not receive any consequence for that, I'm more likely to do that and be able to get away with it and not suffer that because of knowing what's going to happen.
I believe poorly that people are good, and if there were a law saying that you not that you could murder someone, but if there wasn't a law saying that murder was wrong, I still wouldn't have any urge to do so.
I'm not saying you particularly.
No, I just feel like
you should join me on the streets. Your mind will be changed about that real quick. About people being good. I've been on the streets for a year and a half. I see some wicked people out there, very wicked people.
I didn't grow up privileged.
I didn't either.
But people are I feel like people are inherently good if you give them the ability to be.
Well, people that are good don't do this to their children. They don't blaspheme God's name. They don't
want their children to suffer.
Well, but they don't make their children suffer through abortion. That's the ultimate form of child abuse.
How is like having the unborn like bring into this world, like how is that suffering for them?
I feel like it's suffering, and when they're not going to be able to live a life that is good for them.
How do you know that's not going to happen?
Because the women don't want to get abortions.
They do.
No.
They do.
No one's like, oh,
They know
I
what
want to
they're
do this today.
They know what they're doing.
A woman who chooses to get an abortion, it's, of course there are outliers in every situation that make people seem insane. But the average woman who gets an abortion that's a last ditch desperation for them. And they're not doing it for fun. They're doing it because maybe they don't want to see their child grow up starving.
But if you believe people are inherently good, would people in the community step up and help that child and that woman?
I think there are people that would, and I don't think all people are good, but I also think people have their own sort of sets of morals. I don't think you guys are bad people. I don't think anyone's like, it's your belief, and I can see where you're coming from, but it is a different core belief of where life starts. For example, I don't think people should be murdering people.
Why?
Because murder is wrong, but I also
how do you know it's
that
wrong?
These are people.
How do you know it's wrong though?
Because everyone has an ingrained set of morals. I didn't get them from the Bible, for example.
Well, because in some cultures they think it's okay to murder people, to cannibalize them. So I mean, how do you know it's wrong in this culture? What do you base it on?
I mean, even if you take like religion out of the equation, like it's still societal.
How do you? Well, because in this society, we used to think homosexuality was wicked.
People still think that.
Well, but far fewer. A lot of even professing Christians think it's okay. I mean, in this nation,
okay with gay marriage.
In this nation, women used to murder their babies and would feel shame. Now that they celebrate it, our nation has changed so much over the years. I mean, so
they do.
They do.
We see it all the time. He has a video from a couple of days ago of a woman singing and dancing and saying, "Kill them all."
That's because they were trying to make you upset.
No, it's because they wouldn't be doing that decades ago.
The abortion mill.
It's to make people who are protesting and upset. It's not because
and the
they're
workers
excited.
in the parking lot sing "Another One Bites the Dust" and blow bubbles and party as people are going in to murder their children.
Again, they're
if
trying
it
to get
was such a
response just like you guys
profound,
are.
like hard thing, I don't know why the workers would be acting like that.
But
they're trying to get a response just as much as you guys are. What they're doing isn't
They're not
great
even
either.
respecting the women going in.
But it just goes back to, how do you know what's right and wrong? Well, what's the
I have
What's the
ingrained
standard?
moral code, just like I'm sure you guys do.
Well, where does the moral code come from?
Being a human.
Well, because some people, Adolf Hitler thought it was okay to murder millions of Jews. How do we know what people that say is wrong? But why was he wrong?
People are wrong because that is a unjust basis to discriminate on. They were doing it based on their religion, which is just like, I'm not going to discriminate on anyone based on their religion. And also there are people in every religious belief, political belief, culture, country, classroom that are going to be radicalists and take things way too far. For example, I don't consider myself a radicalist in the general pro-choice movement. I'm not out there I'm not trying to scream out my beliefs in general. I'm here because you guys are here, and I assume you're here for a discussion.
Yeah.
Just as I am.
Yeah.
But there are going to be people who are radicalists in every sense. Yeah, and just like Hitler, radicalist, I think everyone can agree with that. But there are also people still today who believe that way, and they are radicalists, they're white supremacists. And that's not okay either. But I feel like...
Why is that okay?
It's not okay because they're killing people.
But again, why is that not okay? I'm not sure.
Because it's a human life who is able to make choices and be like, yeah, but I don't personally believe that they are humans at the fetal stage before they're viable.
So wait, are you basing human life on the ability to make choices, or what do you base human life on? Viability.
Yes.
So
The ability.
To survive on your own without assistance.
Yes.
Which even born children cannot survive on their own without assistance.
People in iron lungs or medical equipment, pacemakers, stuff like that. They can't survive without them.
You plug it, they're gonna die.
They've had that in their life before, and they've lost that ability due to sickness. These fetuses haven't developed to that point yet. Do you guys?
So we should murder them because they're totally defenseless?
I don't think it's murder because they're not. I don't view them as people yet. Did you guys take like biology in high school and have to like do like dissections?
I've got a pre-med biology
Yeah,
degree.
I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
sorry if that came off as me trying to insinuate
I
that
took
you
embryology
don't understand
and all of it.
I'm sorry if that came off as
No,
me
no,
trying to
it's
assume
okay.
that you don't understand science or anything.
No, I have got.
Yeah. But do you guys like believe that dissection is like also immoral, like of like fetal pigs?
I mean,
I'm a vegetarian, so for me it would be, but.
Well, I believe in like the laws that have been put in place when it comes to like animal testing and everything regarding that. Like, it can't be like. Are you talking about like dead animals? Like when it comes to that, or are you talking about like animals and like the like testing and stuff like that, like while they're alive?
That, but also like for example, if you are taking a biology course, I'm not sure about here, but in my high school it was like this. Like they would take a fetal pig, which were aborted pig embryos, and work on those for like dissection.
We had to work on cadavers in college. I couldn't even touch them.
Well, I was gonna say, well, if the pigs are separated from the mother, then they're no longer surviving. Yeah.
I mean, do you like view that as like morally wrong, like human abortionists?
No.
well, we're made in the image of God. Animals are not,
Yeah.
and that's coming from a guy who loves animals. But
Yeah,
they're
but I
not.
wish you could separate it from the Christian worldview. This
Well,
isn't a
I easily can. I don't need. I'm not going to because I'm a Christian. But like I said, I've met those who say they're atheists, agnostics, who knew that this was murder is wrong.
It is. You're right.
And
Why
again,
is it dumb? Why is
Yeah.
it dumb?
Because God doesn't exist.
can you prove that?
In the first place, can you prove that God exists?
Sure.
It takes a lot of
Are you
faith.
are you open to proof?
Comes up saying,
We're pretty dumb.
Are you open to any proof at all, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you open to proof, sir? I guess not.